Welcome to my workshop called Maintain Healthy Boundaries to Prevent Burnout. My name is Judy Hu. I'm a licensed mental health counselor in Massachusetts, trauma-informed therapist of 20 years, and author of a book called The Boundary Revolution. I invented boundary coaching from a place of deep burnout during the pandemic. So there's going to be a trigger warning here. I'm going to mention suicidal ideation. Please take care of yourselves. So even as a therapist, I manage complex PTSD. I've burned out of 3 professions. The most recent one was during the pandemic as a therapist. At that time, I burned out of being a parent of 2 kids, one of whom was neurodivergent. I was a wife of a highly anxious husband, a therapist of many people with significant trauma whose people were dying during COVID. And I was a community member who started a mutual aid group at our elementary school. So I was really busy and constantly triggered. And I was in so much pain that alongside planning the meals, I was also managing constant suicidal ideation. Okay, so zooming out for a second. I share my life not for you to figure me out. I've created a way to walk myself and my clients out of rock bottom over and over again. I am sharing about my life as an invitation into you, so you can learn more about you and your life and why you might be feeling burnt out or needing some guidance around what to do about certain dynamics, okay? I'm going to first teach you a skill, which is bilateral tapping. Bilateral tapping, and you can do this on your end, is basically you cross your arms and you start tapping one at a time. What's happening is you're activating both sides of the hemisphere in a cadence. When the 2 hemispheres of the brain are actively connected and communicating, it activates your body's natural tendency towards healing. So this skill is great when you're on Zoom, if you're driving, if you're at a meeting, you just do it on your knees. So if you're dysregulated, about to yell at someone or someone's being mean to you and you can't yell back, you just start tapping. It's going to help you stay grounded, okay? I am trying to get you activated enough so that we can rewire your nervous system at the same time as I'm doing this workshop, but not so activated that you're out of your body. That's what's called the window of tolerance. If you're struggling, especially if your video's off, let me know and I can slow down or help you through it. This is not supposed to be painful. This is supposed to be enlightening. It can bring up emotion and then it's going to dissipate. Okay, so zooming back in, thank goodness I wanted to end my life. Looking back now from where I am now, I know why I wanted to end my life. I built a life that I hated. I wasn't even really living. Unbeknownst to me at the time, I was using my body to maintain a system that needed me to not have healthy boundaries. If you are currently dealing with burnout, congratulations. That might not feel good, but I'm telling you, this is a portal. We're going to walk through it, not all the way because that's only 2-hour workshop, but we're going to walk through it so you can see what's on the other side. For now, I want you to look at something internally, and it's this question. And you're welcome to put it in the chat or just write it down on your end. If you had healthy boundaries, what would be different in your life right now? And I want you to be concrete. And if you can put it in the chat, that would be amazing. If you had healthy boundaries, what would be different in your life right now concretely? Spend more time outside. I would have more capacity to enjoy my children, absolutely. Less hesitancy, feeling like I'm walking on eggshells or letting others down. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing those. You can keep putting it in there. That's a space for you all too. Use it as an opportunity to connect with each other, okay? Here's my next slide. Boundaries are difficult to embody because our society historically not only models dysfunctional boundaries, but actually discourages healthy boundaries. Okay, so do you know what woke me up during the pandemic? More money. And it's not what you think. During COVID, insurance companies increased their reimbursement rates to clinicians. So I was taking insurance. It went from $65, $55 to $65 per client for an hour-long session to $90. They increased their reimbursement rates to clinicians because there were not enough clinicians to manage the need. They were burning out. So the insurance companies were like, oh, here, let me give you more money. Many of my colleagues were like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's so much more money. And me, I got so mad because they could have been paying this rate the entire time. Okay, so just notice if you are dysregulated, tap. This was the same realization I had about my husband at the time. He would give me more when I demanded it, when I started yelling, when I started saying what I needed with this urgency and power, right? But he did not give it freely and generously without my fight. What did I do when I woke up? I ended my marriage, I came out as queer, and I changed the way I worked. Our society teaches us codependence. I'm good if you think I'm good. Or they teach us anti-dependence. I don't need anybody. So the natural thing that came out of my burnout was I was like, fuck you all, I'm doing it my way. What happened was I started writing this book because I needed to figure out how to make more money so I could support myself and my kids, okay? So right now, instead of trauma therapy, I am a boundary coach who helps individuals, couples, and groups clear out the impact of childhood and inherited familial trauma from your nervous system, and I help you replace it with healthy boundaries. Here's another invitation. Imagine saying no to your primary caregiver in your young childhood. How would that go? This is a judgment-free zone, an opportunity for you to have inquiry here. If you said no to your primary caregiver when you were a young child, how would that go? And I want you to notice what's happening in your body. I'm going to teach you a second somatic skill. It's called orienting. Orienting is connecting to your body in the current moment where you're at. So I want you to notice your body, and then I want you to slowly look around the room. And when you're doing it, you're identifying an object registered in your body. And you want to turn your body and look around you slowly, taking in objects. And you want to do it on the other side behind you as well. So orienting is reminding your body where you are at right now in the present moment. So what I found was my mom is not here. So in young childhood, your relationship with your primary caregiver sets the stage for your emotional and psychological boundaries as an adult and how you relate to each other. I want to be crystal clear. I love my mother. This is in no way to disrespect any of the elders. It is also in no way to say it was okay how I was treated. You'll understand this framework as I walk us through. Zooming back in. My mom was forced into marriage that she didn't want. She was forced due to poverty. Her dad died when she was 12. There was not enough money to go around. She had to marry someone. She not only didn't want to be married to my dad, she didn't really want to be a parent because no one parented her. My mother was chronically stressed and miserable. She didn't want to leave China to go to Taiwan because of communism. She didn't want to leave Taiwan to go to the US. Zooming out, no one really wants to leave home if they don't have to. What I'm trying to do is show some context about how we got where we're at now. In my childhood, if I said no to my mom, she would threaten to disown me or harm herself. So what happened was, my mom, I would experience as this size circle. She would hurt herself, disown me, and I learned to be this size circle. No needs, right? So basically what I learned was to take up very little space. I never identified what I wanted and didn't want, because if I said what I wanted, it would likely dysregulate her and then I'd get in trouble. My childhood longing to make my mother happy and proud of me is exactly what brought me into this profession as a therapist. I was a teacher and another helping profession. I burned out of 3 professions. That longing is also what burned me out of it, because I am trying to do this. When we do this for a really long time, take up very little space and have no needs, the natural tendency is what happened to my ex-husband. I'd get pissed and then take up a lot of space, and then the other person would feel victimized, right? So back and forth we would go, right? Perpetrator, victim, oppressor, oppressed. This dynamic is the key. Our relationship with our primary caregiver determines how we view boundaries, how our nervous system was primed to be in relationships with ourselves and with the other person. Okay? So zooming out again, the grounding statement I want you to keep coming back to, and I use this in all my sessions and with myself: nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with you. What is this data between us? The first learning objective is to understand what healthy boundaries look like and feel like. The basis of the model is you matter. So this is a third size of my circle, which has the heart. It means you matter, and the person next to you and the person across the globe, all of these people matter the same. The person supervising you, the person you serve, the person who can do nothing for you matters equally. Every single person, regardless of gender, class, race, ability, mental health status, sexuality, achievements, failures, job title, amount of money, appearance, housing, location, immigration status, does not matter. Every single person on the planet is as valuable as every other person. And everyone matters equally, regardless. So what have we learned in our society? It wasn't just my mom who was like this, right? Because it's a context. There's a teacher called Resmaa Menakem. He's a trauma therapist and author of the book, My Grandmother's Hands. What he says is one of my guiding lights, okay? He says, trauma decontextualized in a person looks like personality. So my mom's trauma was that her dad died. She was in poverty and she was escaping communism. Nothing was in her control. So her trauma looks like personality. She's really controlling and she's really critical. She's really high standards. So her trauma decontextualized looks like personality, okay? Took up a lot of space. Trauma decontextualized in a family looks like family traits. So everyone walked on eggshells around my mother. What did we all do? We pretended we were perfect. The family trait was perfection. High achieving, very meek, very amenable. That's what our family trait looked like. Trauma decontextualized in a group of people looks like culture. East Asian families, high achieving, tiger parents, all these other things. But decontextualized trauma made that happen. Who could leave the country during times of war? The highest achievers. It was their ticket out. They would get sponsored to go to a company. They would get sponsored to go to a university. If they were at the top, it increased their chances of survival. That's the culture piece. The piece I want to overlay here is why this dynamic. It's not just in my family, but it's also from society. That's where it started. Society makes us not feel healthy. Society makes us feel like if I'm white, lighter skinned, wealthy, cisgender, thin, extroverted, punctual, heterosexual, I and more valuable than someone who might be a woman, introverted, LGBTQ, immigrant, BIPOC, older, poor, houseless, single, no kids, learning differing ability, feels like this, okay? And so this is the programming in our society, that your value is contingent on something outside of you. So the basis of healthy boundaries is you're going to be working to be in same size, in right size, always. And that, if you can do this, it will already transform your life. This is a fun picture that I got from Instagram of what happens when our bodies have been wired to take up very little space and only do what we're asked and never break the rules. Is we see boundaries, cages around us, and we don't claim our fullness. We don't understand that we have freedom and agency. Okay, so these sheep, there's all this grass, and then they go to the door and they're like, wait, there's no one there opening the door. Any questions so far? How is this landing? Healthy boundaries is about living in right size. By right sizing, if someone shows up in my imagination, I right size them. So if it's a white man telling me how I should show up, in my mind, I'm like, shrink you down. And when someone who is used to taking up a lot of space feels entitled to, when I right size him down and say, no, that's not going to work for me, they're going to be pissed. That makes sense because they're used to too much access. When I right size them down, they're going to feel like they're like oppressed. And you're going to know, no, you just had way too much and it's my time to shrink you down into the same size as me. Okay? If you are used to taking up very little space, your active practice to grow your capacity in your body and your nervous system is to be in same size. And I will guarantee you, you're going to think that you're doing this. Oh my gosh, I asked for too much. I'm a burden. I'm totally oppressing. I came across as bitchy. I can't believe I said the thing. I'm so sorry I said no, I'm not going to do the thing. You're going to think that you're harming someone. And I want you to consider if it's actually you finally taking up the right amount of space. So that dysregulation, that discomfort is very important. Society does not want us to have healthy boundaries because if we had healthy boundaries, we would not tolerate 99% of what we tolerate in the world. What we've learned is this is porous boundaries. So the boundary is this separation between me. If this is my boundary, this is who I am, this is my sense of self, this is what I want, what I don't want, what my dreams are, what they're not. And my job is within my boundary, I'm regulating my emotions because my emotions tell me what's happening in my body and I'm collecting data. I'm figuring out how to communicate it to someone that doesn't harm them physically or psychologically, okay? That's my job as an adult, functional adult. The other person is in charge of managing their emotions too and figuring out what they want, what they don't want, and expressing it in a way that's respectful, kind, and direct. Even if it's going to disappoint someone, that's their job. When you have no separation, what happens is the boundaries merge. This is called having a porous boundary. Porosity is completely acceptable and appropriate when it's an adult with their child. The child's brain does not fully develop till mid-20s. So they don't have as much capacity to regulate their emotions or to identify what's happening. They need co-regulation with their grown-up to help them figure it out. The grown-up ideally uses their fully functioning brain and helps the child go, oh, sweetheart, you're hungry. And the child's, no, I'm not hungry. You're the worst parent in the world. I hate you. And the parents, that makes sense. Have a cheese stick, right? And then they feel better. Porosity is helpful because the parent's supposed to feel into the child and help them understand. This is not appropriate in adult relationships. So if any of you does mind reading and goes, ooh, my boss is in a really bad mood, let me figure out what they might need to calm them down. How do I manage this thing? So if you're mind reading or anticipating someone else's needs, that is not healthy. Okay? If you're in someone else's boundary, you want to, in your mind's eye, energetically separate. And just stay in your boundary and figure out what you want and then double check. The story I make up is that you want me to do this thing. Is that accurate? And then they can say yes or no. But anticipating someone's needs is a boundary crossing. Someone expecting you to anticipate their needs is a boundary crossing, is a red flag. Zooming out, remember, everyone has been impacted by collective trauma because of settler colonialism, white body supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism. Nobody on this planet has been untouched, especially the billionaires. No one is untouched from this harm. So the next porous boundary, rigid boundary, is like steel. You're not going to get in my boundary. I don't care what you want. I don't want it. The separation, there's a line between the two. I'm not connecting to anybody. This rigid boundary is appropriate for teenagers, young adults who are differentiating from their parents. So remember, their parents are supposed to feel into them and help them understand what's happening. When the child turns into a young adult, they're supposed to practice kicking their parent out of their boundary and saying, no, I don't actually want to be a doctor. I want to do art. And then managing the feeling of disappointment. The differentiation is important because you are here for a reason, not to please other people. God forbid you're going to create a life you hate by doing that. What you want to do is figure out who you are and what you want. This is also appropriate if you're in a relationship with someone who's abusive or neglectful. Because if you keep asking for someone to show up for you in a healthy way and they're not doing it, you continuing to go is you not protecting yourself. You're prioritizing their protection over yours. Does that make sense? So that's appropriate. What's not appropriate for rigid boundaries is healthy connection. If I am committed to being in right size and same size as another person, and I'm serving them, I'm going to be changed by them. So I'm going to open up and be seen, and I'm going to see into them. And that's the process of healthy boundary, which is the Venn diagram. I figure out what I want, and then I allow someone else to see in there. I would like to go to the party with you, but I can only stay for an hour because I am really at low capacity. That's okay with me for you to come for an hour. Okay, good. So what you're doing is you're negotiating what feels good in my body, what feels good in your body, and then how do we figure that out? It's not one way or the other way. There's no one right way. This is why diversity is valuable. There is no one right way in anything. There needs to be freedom and sovereignty. Any questions so far? I'm always trying to anticipate the needs of others. Does anyone else have a similar tendency? The story I make up is if someone has a tendency of trying to anticipate the needs of others, the childhood dynamic might have been, if I anticipate the needs of others and please them, then I'll be in good standing. Then I'll be good. I'll be considered the good child. If you're anticipating someone's needs, it's either for your safety or for your acceptance and praise. Either way, you're spending more time outside of your boundary anticipating other people's needs instead of staying in your boundary and regulating yourself, knowing that no matter what you do or say, including if you disappoint someone, your circle size will not change. Yes, if you don't do it, right? If you don't anticipate another person's needs and you're like, I don't fucking care, I'm going to do this, then it's that rigid boundary. And then what can happen, because it's protective, is that you won't be known, or the other person might not feel considered. It's not good or bad. That makes sense if I've been hurt or someone punishes me a lot. It's about learning a different skill, which is nonviolent communication. The next piece is about protecting your internal sense of self. This boundary, the rigid boundary, those are all part of navigating power dynamics. The other piece is understanding what listening and speaking boundaries are. If someone's used to being small size and they're going into their right size, they're going to get dysregulated. Right now, I'm going to show an image, and it might be triggering. So I'm going to describe it first, and then you can close your eyes when I show it. But it's one person standing up in front of a tank. It's during the Tiananmen Square demonstration, the protest, which doesn't look that far off from what we're dealing with right now. I want you to see something. This image is this one person standing in front of a tank. What's happening is that person said, I am as important as you. I'm taking a stand. I'm not allowing this. Now what I want you to do is feel into your body and notice any sensations. And tell me in the chat or unmute yourself. Your response to that is going to tell you what you need to do to move out of it. So usually the stress responses are fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And there's different things to do somatically based on that. When you're looking at this image, anyone feel like dissociated, checking out, freeze? Okay, good. So my hands are cold, so it's freeze too. If you're frozen, okay, what's going to happen is you're going to assess in the moment if I'm safe to actually do something. If you're standing in front of a tank, this is going to be completely different. But the majority of the time, you're not going to be in front of a tank. You're going to think that I'm doing this because things getting cut, okay, for your organization, or this person's about to lose their housing. What am I going to do? To stay grounded in your body so you can actually do your job without burning your body out, thinking that you're standing in front of a tank. If you're frozen, you want to move your body so it warms it up. You're going to go up and down the stairs, get some warm tea, orient. But if you can raise your heart rate, that's going to be really important. Because freeze shuts down your body so you get really sleepy. If you're not dealing with a crisis and your body goes into freeze, go take a nap. Okay? Like, please do not extract from your body if you're actually not in a situation that you need to deal with in the moment. Our brains have so much epigenetic impact from historical trauma that it's really hard to figure out what's an actual crisis. Epigenetics is this research that happened with lab mice. The scientists release the scent of cherry blossoms, shock the mice. Cherry blossom scent, shock the mice. Cherry blossom scent, shock the mice. It's horrible. And then what happened was they bred those mice, and both generations of mice, all they did was smell cherry blossoms, and the mice would scatter to the side. They never experienced a shock in their lifetime, but the programming from their grandparent mice was, this scent is not safe. Your body, if it's hypervigilant all the time, can be holding on to memories of ancestral trauma. If I'm feeling very intense, this could be something from a past experience that I need to process out and not relevant to this experience. It's really important to consider, because then you don't think there's something wrong with you. You know that you can clear it out because it's connected to something older. Yes, exactly, Zoe. We were all eggs inside our grandmother's womb. It's so fascinating. Okay. So, yes, exactly. So freeze, you move your body, activate, or you take a nap if you're not in a stress thing. If you're angry, I want you to do this. It's called twist or squeeze. And so you either get like a pillow you're going to twist. What I do is, because I'm always sitting in front of the Zoom, I'll start to pull up on my chair. We're going to walk through this so everyone can do it. You're going to tense up your body to release the adrenaline and cortisol because you want to do something with the fight response. You do not want to breathe it out. You cannot breathe it out. You need to actually fight in some way, okay? So what's going to happen is I'm going to walk you through this squeeze technique, or you can twist something if you have a pillow there. And you're going to bare your teeth at the same time. And what happens is baring your teeth is the primitive way of showing a boundary. If you see animals and someone walks close to their nest or their babies and the animal's like, they don't say anything, they just show you like you're not welcome. So that's what you're going to do. If you're pissed at someone, like someone's saying something during a call or you're experiencing something, you need to move it out of your body. So I invite folks, if they want to, it's all optional. You're going to pull on something, you're going to twist, and when you do it, you're going to bare your teeth, and then you're going to tighten all of your muscles. And I like to say something like, I'm so sick of your shit in my mind. And then stop. And then just breathe regular. So what's going to happen is the nervous system's going to slowly just settle. Okay? And you're waiting for the plateau. In my body, I feel a little bit more grounded. Like I can feel my butt a little bit more. I feel a little bit more spacious in my chest. And my field of vision is wider. When we're stressed, our vision is very narrow. So that's a good indicator on how you're doing, is what can I see around me? Often I tell people to do this 3 times. That's how stressed we are. I'll do this in the car if I think about something that pisses me off. I'll pull on it and then just let it settle. You don't want to keep doing it because you actually want to let your nervous system settle. If you do it too much, you'll actually burn it. You'll blow it out. You want to really work with your nervous system. Fight, flight, dissociate, flee, fawn. Okay, fawn is fun. Not fun. It just is what it is. Fawning is, oh, yes, of course I can get you coffee, even though I'm your equal. Part of this is awareness. It's just like going, oh, there that part of me goes, pretending, right? And what you can do is you remove yourself from the situation because you're picking up on a real dynamic. Go to the bathroom, push on something to get the anger moving. Go to the bathroom, bilateral tap so you can get back in your body, and chat GPT a possible response to set a boundary, or draft something, or call or text someone and say, ask me to get coffee again. So what you want to do is be known by someone who's safe. Okay. I do not want to minimize the fact that it is not safe in certain spaces. Your body's not crazy. You're picking up on something. We're trying to figure out if it's present moment stuff or your historical stuff. And if it's because you're too much in someone's boundary or they're in your boundary and you separate, or someone's bigger than you and you shrink them down, or you're smaller than someone and you grow your size up, okay? So it's just creating this awareness in you on what's the dynamic that's happening internally for me and how can I change it. The benefit of this model is that it doesn't require the other person to do a single thing. It's all energetic and visual internally. This is how you protect yourself. This is called an internal boundary. So I have it inside me. This is the boundary here. This is a protective boundary around your emotional space internally, okay? So if you want to, you're going to have one hand out and one hand on your chest. And the one hand out is this listening boundary that I'm going to teach you first. It's this external boundary, okay? It's a listening boundary. It protects yourself from others. And you are going to double check the thing that you're seeing or hearing is actually something that's going to be helpful to you. Okay, so it's like a gate. If you're a house, you have a gate on the outside. It's a fence. Before you let any mail in, you're going to double check the address. The rules are you're going to be curious, you're going to track your body, You're going to track your brain. That's where you're going to get information if I'm shrinking down, if I'm dysregulated and angry or whatever. And then you're going to ask these questions. Is this true? The thing that they're saying about me. If the person's saying, you're very selfish. Is this true? I'm not really selfish. So I'm not going to let it in. Is this about me or about them? They're calling me selfish because I said, no, I didn't want to do the thing. So it's about them. Is it helpful that I'm selfish? That's not a helpful statement. So I keep it out. This is also a very important skill in my mind. Reality TV ruined us. Someone says, you're a good singer, you're going to be a star. And people took it in, right? It's the same thing with social media. I put something out there, I get all these likes, then I'm good. Big circle. I put something out there, it didn't go well, I'm bad. So, little circle, okay? So this is really how you protect yourself from other people's perceptions of you. This is the listening boundary. The speaking boundary is this hand on your chest that protects this person from you. If you're as important as me, then my responsibility is to protect you as much as me, because we're equally valuable and we're on this land together. And that's what it means to be in healthy relationships with people. So the speaking boundary protects other people from me and my perceptions that are created from my childhood and my belief systems. The rules are, I'm going to share to be known. I'm not going to share to blame the other person. I'm going to keep connected to track my brain and my body because my perceptions are impacted by my childhood and my body's giving me information on what's happening. And I'm going to ask these questions. And only when these questions are a yes, do I let it out. Is this thing I want to say true? It feels true. Is this thing I'm about to say about me or about them? I think it's about me. So I'm going to keep holding it in. Okay, so it's this discernment. Is the thing I'm about to say helpful? If you're going to say something that helps them have a hard truth, like when you asked me to get you coffee, the story I made up is that you don't respect me, and that story makes me feel pissed. Can you stop asking me to get you coffee? That's helpful because it's feedback of like, you're my equal. This is not something that I want to do. Is it mine to say? If it's about me, then yes, it's mine to say. If it's about them, you don't like the pants they're wearing, it's not yours to say. How is it going to impact the other person? Is it helpful? That's really important. We live in a world with not a lot of filters. You want to filter yourself. And you want to filter what other people say about you. You don't just take it in because someone says it. I love this question. I'm going to read it first, and then maybe you can give a specific example that's made up. I find boundaries easier to pull with great reflection and time to myself. With new individuals or strangers, I tend to assume humility or kindness because those are my values. In the moment, I can feel like I'm being kind or open. I am being a safe or unique space for this person. Sometimes it goes really well, human, respectful. Other times it quickly, fluidly descends into boundary crossing. Is there a question or tactic for in the moment asking what your boundary is or are present and if they're being crossed, especially for non-regular initial interactions? Great question. Do you have an example?
I think the top ones that are coming to mind are literally like meeting people for the first time or situations where you're not even introducing yourself, especially those interactions that don't have infrastructure around them too. It's not a meeting you can end or a space you can move away from. Like you said earlier, moving away from a space and thinking about it and sharing it with someone. What happens if you don't have that time for separation?
Exactly.
Yeah.
This is going to connect to nonviolent communication, but I'll start with this now. I like to narrate my internal experience. But before you narrate, you want to assess for safety. Okay? If you're meeting someone or hanging out with someone that historically crosses boundaries and they're in a position of power, you need to be mindful of that. My suggestion for that is if it's someone who has more power than you and it's not safe to set a boundary, you want to think of things to do in preparation. Sometimes I'll give an example with my kids. If they're in a situation that is unsafe, I've told them to just say, "Oh my God, I think I'm going to throw up." It's something they practice. If you're talking to someone who has more proximity to power and doesn't honor boundary settings, then you use something like that they can't say no to and you don't give them space. "Oh my gosh, I think I ate something that I need to leave. Excuse me." That's in a situation that is unsafe and you want to get yourself out. If it's someone that you're not really sure about and you're getting a sense, you're going to be vetting for safety. Some of the things that you can do is just go, if someone keeps talking to you and maybe the topic is uncomfortable, it's about politics and you're not aligned or something, this conversation is really interesting to me. Unfortunately, I have to get to a meeting that I need to prepare for. I'd love to talk with you about this later. If you don't want to, you can say, "I actually need to go prepare for a meeting." I'm sorry if that's upsetting to you. You want to figure out what the thing you need is and then figure out how to get to that. How honest, authentic you're going to be depends on how safe this person is or not. Any questions or?
I don't know if it's a question yet, because I also value curiosity as well. Maybe it's that thing of being in a learning space versus pulling the boundary and retreating and lessening interaction or stopping that interaction.
I feel like
That's a
you owe someone curiosity.
maybe it's not even owe somebody, but more just like life. Like I owe this life that curiosity. I don't know if that makes
Interesting.
sense.
What's happening in your body as you say that? I owe this life this curiosity.
I think
I
knowing that
wonder,
this interaction might be bigger than just the two people involved.
especially if there's a charge or something. And the story I wonder is if you're picking up on historical dynamics, racial dynamics, class dynamics, or patriarchy. Being able to see it for me is so helpful because then I can neutralize the entire situation. In my mind, I can go, "Oh, this is what's happening." And using this next skill, which is nonviolent communication, I can connect people very easily and safely if they're open to it. So I think this next piece will help. I love the question. Zoe, do you had a question?
I guess I'm coming from more of a comment space, but speaking of new encounters, just made me reflect and think about when I have new encounters and setting clear boundaries. I feel like it's quite odd. I've met some people that are very upfront about how they have been spoken to before and know that they cross boundaries. And I feel like sometimes it feels a little bit like bragging, where they're like, but I'm gonna just do it anyway. From my experience, my small window of these type of people, it's like older cis white women. That was their introduction to me. Oh, it's nice to meet you. I've been spoken to before that I cross boundaries, but I'm going to do it anyway. The question part of it is like, how do you respond? What is a suggestion of response? Why? I just find it very odd. And I think that the boundary crossing most commonly of what I've experienced is like un unconsensual hugging, a lot of like personal
Mm.
touching.
By
Oh,
women?
yeah, like older cis white women in the workplace, and they don't ask first. They're like, "Oh, I know it's like crossing a boundary, and I've been spoken to about it before, but I'm just gonna hug you anyway." And
Mhm.
I think it is quite strange. I don't really know what to make of it, but I feel uncomfortable by it. But mostly I'm uncomfortable because they admit that they know it's not appropriate and they're doing it anyway. I think it makes it more
Yes.
uncomfortable. I think if they just hugged me, I would have a lot of compassion and forgiveness, maybe they don't know, they come from an older generation.
Yeah.
But just the fact that this has happened to me multiple times where they preface it like during the boundary crossing, I think it's very odd.
Do you mind sharing a little bit about your background, your ethnic background, if it's
Um,
part of the factor?
I'm Chinese.
So I'm always wondering, is this older white women to a small Chinese person that they think you're cute like a kid, kind of patronizing a little bit? Does it
I
ever feel
definitely
like
think
that?
age plays a role of like ageism and,
Yes.
oh, honey, you're like, you could be my granddaughter or you could be my daughter. I
Uh-huh.
definitely think ageism plays into it.
Perfect, perfect. So do you see, you just were like, we just roll a
Hmm.
dice. Let's see what the
Hmm.
things are. And so do you notice that when it landed for you on ageism, there was this settling? There's a resonance in your
Hmm.
body. Does that land accurately in your body? When you're like, I think it's actually ageism. Did you notice a shift in your
Yeah.
body when you realized it? Yes. So that's
Yeah.
exactly how to use your body on what do I need? Okay. So even you're like, it's uncomfortable, but I can tolerate it. Okay. Just want to say, just make sure you're okay with it. Because
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
historically learned how to tolerate a lot of inappropriate behavior, we have high tolerance. Doesn't mean we need to do it. So a
Right.
possible thing to say to this person, and we can use it as an example for the nonviolent communication is when they're like, oh my God, I've gotten feedback that I crossed lines, but I'm going to do it anyway. You can move your body and go, really? This is so fun. Can you say more about why you think it's okay to keep doing it? People said that they don't want you to do it, but you do it anyway. Can you say more? Does it impact your relationship
Mm.
with them? Do they keep letting you hug them? You can shift the focus and just keep asking questions if you want to. And when you do that, you're vetting for safety and their response. So back to the image of separating, right? She's, I love giving hugs. And you're like, I don't want it. So when you say no, their response informs your next boundary. If they say, oh, does that make you uncomfortable? Yes, it actually does. They're like, okay, I won't do it. That is vetting for safety. That's a green light. If you say, no, I don't want hugs anymore, and they're like, why are you so sensitive? What's wrong with your generation? Then you can have a more rigid boundary. It just means how close you're going to be with them. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
you can be in the same office space, but energetically be very boundaried and separated from this
Hmm.
person. That's how you can control the dynamic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Let's go into this
Thank
next tip.
you.
This is the integration part of our time, so this is perfect. Nonviolent communication is a huge benefit in every space that I'm in now. It teaches you how to establish clear boundaries and negotiate your needs and wants in a direct and nonviolent way. To clarify, Bernice King says, nonviolence, as my father embraced it, is not passive. It acts, strategizes, refuses to cooperate with evil, works for justice, and cultivates heart and systemic change. It also believes true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. So it's an active thing, okay? So there's again, a foundational piece to nonviolent communication. These are the assumptions. That downloaded sheet that you got at the start has it at the bottom. Everything we've covered is on that one sheeter, okay? Okay, you can still see this, right? Okay, so everyone is inherently worthy, so same size. We are all allowed to make mistakes because we're human. We're supposed to be making mistakes because that's also how we grow, okay? Mistakes or harm do not diminish your worth. Safety is always more important than comfort. Assume good intentions. Everyone is doing the best that they can, which does not mean you settle for someone hugging you when you don't want them to hug you, okay? Listen with curiosity and an open heart. We all have a right to have our needs met. No one is entitled to wants at the expense of another. Avoid criticism or complaints. Instead, make clear, specific behavioral requests that someone can say yes or no to. And it's sharing to be known, not to be right. Use I statements and use the feedback wheel. The feedback wheel is this thing that I'm going to teach you now. Nonviolent communication has these sections. When I work with couples, they roll their eyes and they're like, seriously, this is so hard. I'm like, it's gonna save your marriage. When you did or said A, an A is something that you're describing that you saw with your eyeballs or you heard with your ears. It is not a perception. It is literal data that you can record on video or audio tape. When you did or said A, the story I made up in my mind is B is your perception now. This is your interpretation. Everyone's going to perceive something differently based on their childhood experiences and worldview. So everyone's going to have a different perception. What you're doing is you're owning your perception. That story I made up in my mind makes me feel C. And that's going to be an emotion that's sad, mad, scared, happy, or excited. It's not makes me feel like I can't trust you. That's not a feeling. Okay? I need D. D is your specific behavioral request. The example here is when you say, I can take care of that, and then sigh while you're doing it, the story I make up in my mind is that you didn't really want to take on the task. And the sigh implies I forced you to. That story makes me feel frustrated, confused, tired, and sad. I want to trust your yes. Next time you offer, is it okay if I ask you to think about it and confirm the next day? And if you do feel frustrated with it, you either hold in the sigh or take responsibility for your decision. Okay, so that's an example. Does someone have another question on this? This is a scenario. How would I do nonviolent communication? We just did it with this person, with the hug. Can you not hug me next time? Or can you ask me next time?
Okay, I have one,
Perfect.
but I also sometimes struggle with phrasing in real time. For example, like when you have to deliver, I think I'm thinking of one explosive personality that I know,
Okay.
and I never know how the response is going to go, but I'm also not sure how to communicate about if I am even in a place to request. Yeah, which as I say
Beautiful.
that, I should, but yeah, there's that because I do need a response
Mhm.
in a dynamic like that. But is
And
it right
their
for me
response
to
is big
ask?
sized. Can we just land on this? Is it right for me to ask? What's the answer?
Yeah,
Yes, you have
that's
every
what I was
right to
thinking of.
ask for what you want. So I just want to name the fact of when we are used to being in small size, the question of, do I have a right to ask for what I need? Yes. So that is across the board. If you need something differently, you can ask for it. I'm going to ask for some safety questions. Is this someone who you report to or who has punished people?
I would say report. Yeah,
Okay, great. Are they open to feedback?
I've seen this behavior multiple times with people other than me, and nobody gives feedback.
They might not know. If you followed your gut, is it safe to give this person feedback?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. So my suggestion is, my wondering, and we're going to see how it lands, okay, is a question of, hey, Jerry, I noticed something about a dynamic. Would you be open to some feedback? Okay, so zooming out, what I'm doing is I'm asking for micro yeses. If this person has explosive, big responses, they're often dysregulated. Either they're neurodiverse and constantly flooded or overwhelmed, or their marriage is falling apart and they're like spilling all over, or they're highly activated by all this stuff that's happening because they're invested in this community and it triggers their own historical trauma. There's something that's making this reactivity. Does that make sense? So you asking for micro yeses helps stay keeping regulation with this person. So you're like, I have feedback about a dynamic. Are you open to it? How does that feel so far?
That feels good. And realistically, I think I would need to put a lot of work into like structure that interaction, that feedback interaction.
Yes.
really well. Yeah.
So you need to figure out, do I need to do this? Is it really
Yeah.
impacting your performance? And you don't address it, it's going to burn you out. Okay? So the thing is, okay, then you say, if you're open to feedback, and they're like, yes. Okay, I'm going to be very general here. Okay? And then you can say, I have a very sensitive nervous system. So sometimes when I share information that's important, if the other person has a very strong reaction, it dysregulates me and I feel like I did something wrong. How is this landing so far? Okay? You're
Yeah, I
just
hear that
letting them.
yeah.
How does
Oh,
that
I was just
feel?
saying I hear that like instead of even though the behavior is them like repetitively, it starts with I. I like that.
Yes, exactly. So you're saying what you're doing is this is the process of intimacy. I have a very sensitive nervous system. And so when someone has a big response, my immediate thing is I did something wrong. And when I think I do something wrong, I have this nervous system response that depletes my energy. And I really want to show up for this job because I love it so much. So I want to figure something out. Is that okay? Again, another micro yes. Okay. So, Jerry, when I have information about news, here's some ideas. Can you tell me what might be the easiest? I'm going to email it to you, and then that'll give you space to have a response. And then if you can email me back, that will buffer me against your response. It makes sense to your response, but I just am so sensitive to energy. How's that land? I have another idea. I can send you a voice note, and then you can email me back. So what you're doing is you're in your boundary going, these are the ways that I need it. Does it feel like you would get the information that you need? And we can send voice notes back and forth. If your sound is very loud, I can mute it or transcribe it and just read it. How does that work for you? Does that make sense? How does that feel so far?
Good. Yeah, I
Good.
like the strategy.
Perfect. So it's literally you're owning your experience and what you need, and you're just verbalizing it. Remember, if someone's used to being like this and they're going like this, they're going to think they're doing this. You're not crossing the boundary by asking for what you need. It feels like you are, but you're not. This is not unrealistic. It is not unreasonable. What you want to do is you're vetting for safety and openness, and then you're also teaching the other person how to be in relationship with you. You do not have to tolerate the explosive behavior. And so the other thing is, if you grew up in an environment where one of your caregivers had an explosive response, this dynamic is an opportunity for you to heal it. Zooming out for the group. Our bodies are amazing because we attract the good and bad qualities of the dynamics that we need to heal. So for any of you who are attracted to this type of work because you're wanting to heal something in your family or your ancestral system, deal with this because it's going to burn you out. Because what's happening is the charge, the familiarity with something in your childhood is the thing that's going to keep you trying really hard, but it's going to burn your nervous system out because it's not the thing that you're dealing with right now. If you clear out the charge, you're going to have much more capacity to stay present. Okay? The last piece is, okay, remember I said nothing you can do or say is going to make your circle size shrink or get big. If you win a huge grant, you're not this size. You're fantastic, amazing, still in this size. Okay? It's really important to stay in this size because going back and forth, I got the grant, we didn't get the grant. I got the funding, it got removed. This is exhausting on the body. It's familiar because we grow up with it, but it's really exhausting. The other thing is perfection is not the goal. Perfection is white supremacy. So perfection is not the goal. The goal is that you are staying authentic and dynamic and aligned and making mistakes and learning about yourself and unfolding and learning about someone else and letting them unfold. This is the dance of life. This is why it can be so amazing as long as you're not feeling controlled because you're a human being. So the thing is, there's 3 stages of connection, which is attunement. Oh, I'm communicating exactly the way you need me to. I'm receiving the way that I need to. Oh, everything is fantastic. Okay. Misattunement. That didn't land well. I didn't like that. Oh, I made a mistake and I didn't do that. Okay. And then repair. Repair is actually what makes relationships stronger. Within your organizations, you do not need it to be perfect all the time and happy-go-lucky. Conflict, mistakes are the breeding ground for strengthening and deepening relationships. The key here is how to repair. Nonviolent communication gives the other person the benefit of the doubt while expressing what your needs and wants are that they can say yes or no to. If someone makes a mistake, including you want to practice authentic apologies. There are people who intentionally do harm and then there's nothing. They don't have to have any consequences. This practice is vital to build reparation, rebuild trust, and rebuild a sense of safety to connect again. There's a huge amount of chronic loneliness because it's collective trauma that got decontextualized that now looks like culture. People do not trust connecting with each other because there's so much historical betrayal. We're seeing it now by people who are silent to what's happening. Accountability and apology. In that orange box is the same thing. I'm inherently worthy, even if I make a mistake. The other person is inherently worthy and deserves to be seen and is okay if they make a mistake. We both deserve to be protected. I'm taking accountability for the behavior and impact, never degrading myself or the other person. I will survive the feeling and will look for the gift, and I'm going to use the feedback wheel. Thank you for letting me know that what I did or said was A. You're going to describe what the person told you. And that made you feel B, which is the emotion. I'm sorry, reflect back the person's experience. What can I do to make it better between us? Or can I do this next time? Okay. So the example here, based on the original, was, thank you for letting me know how my sighing impacts you. I understand that my sighing feels passive aggressive. I actually sigh and vent when I'm stressed, and I don't think I can hold it in. Is it possible for you to not take it personally? So this is the dialogue that starts. And then it's, no, I can't take it not personally because my mom used to sigh at me all the time. Can you then leave the room if I start sighing? Because the person's saying, I can't stop sighing because it's a way that I regulate my nervous system. Sighing is absolutely a way that people regulate their nervous system. Humming as well. That would be another thing to use if you're feeling dysregulated. Start humming. This is the way to do an authentic apology.